Hey everyone, welcome back to the AstoundCast, episode 54. Once again, another Marvel edition.
Woohoo!
Yay!
What's going on, Roxanne?
Yeah, it's going all right. How about you, Rodney?
I'm good. Hey, are you enjoying Disney Plus?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. I got it for her straight after the last stream you were on.
Awesome.
So, guys, how have your weeks been?
Yeah, week's not been too bad. Been busy as usual with uni, but apart from that, it's not been too bad at all.
Good. Rodney, how have you been?
Yep. Things over here have been good. I'm busy with work stuff. I mean, youth ministry stuff doesn't necessarily take a break, so there's always
No.
some. It does change on a weekly basis. So I'm getting ready for a few trips and things like that, but all is good.
Cool. So, She-Hulk, attorney at law. What did you think?
I liked it. I mean, I'm a diehard Marvel guy, so pretty much anything they do, I'm gonna like. Unless they just do something, I actually don't know what it would take for them to do something that I don't like. I mean, it's all entertainment, so it's all subjective. So I try to find something good about all of it. Or
Yeah.
I've rarely had to struggle to see, you know, to find something I didn't like. Something. So in that regard, it's all been good. But I say all that to say I liked She-Hulk. Um, it was not one of my favorite series.
No.
It had some high points, some really excellent episodes, and some really cool things that happened in it. But I can also see why some people, not all people, but I can see why some people didn't gravitate towards it and thought it was bad. But you know, when I say I can understand how some people thought it was bad, I am not including trolls and woman haters and people. I mean, there was so much anger and vitriol over this
I
show
know.
all over social media, and people that just had. I saw stronger opinions about this show than I did about just about anything that I think Marvel's put out in quite a while,
Yeah.
including like Eternals or things like that.
Oh yeah, this one was oof. The Marvel fandom did not show its good side during this show.
Yeah, and I would argue that it's funny to me. Like the people that had certain complaints about it was like, okay, the complaints you have about this are the very reasons that you like other things in the
Other
MCU.
shows, yeah,
So like,
exactly.
I would argue like, are some of you actually fans, or have you just found a place to argue about this particular issue? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to isolate, a certain segment of the fan base that, it wasn't good and here's why, or this was different or that. But like, I have even more so with this show have started to appreciate the the variety of styles and stories within the MCU. And I
Yeah,
understand there are some people that want to take all of it, and I want every bit of it to be good, and I want to like every bit of it. And that's
yeah,
valid. I mean, I want to love every bit of it because I like Marvel and I like the stories, and there's a ton of stories in it I love, 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 love. But there's also aspects of it. I mean, if you think about the comic books, there were parts of the comic books and certain comic books that people who love comics, they're like, well, I just don't like that comic book, or I didn't really get into that one. Or, I mean, I think you have to, I'm was aware with this show just how much opportunity there is for Marvel to not just diversify their audience, but to actually speak to different corners of the Marvel universe when it comes to not just the story they tell, but the people that they try to reach out to. And so, do some people like this? Yeah, they're going to love it. Or some people are going to absolutely hate it? Yeah, but does that mean that you should throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak, or that you could look at it and say, well, all of Phase 4 has been just like this, and it's been awful. Okay, that would be a valid criticism. Is all of a lot of the stories have been very standalone, and they haven't had a lot of crossover. And you've had some stuff that could have stood alone or just been very different. Thor: Love and Thunder and Eternals and Black Widow and Moon Knight and Shang-Chi, like they were all different parts of the spectrum, or tried something new, or were standalone stories. Is that a bad thing for some people? Sure. But is it a good thing for some people? Like, that's how I viewed it. I enjoyed it, and from perspective, I enjoyed She-Hulk. So I'm curious what as a whole, I thought it was mid-tier quality wise. It's probably at the lower end of my rankings for television shows.
Okay.
And I would say lower tier, like easily lower tier. Just by the pacing of it. But did it have certain episodes that I would put in my top 5? Yes. But that's because I'm a huge Daredevil fan, and because the finale was so meta and so like just owning their style that they kind of made their own case for, like, you can't argue that this episode is bad, and if you do, you're making our point. Now, obviously, that's still subjective, but there are different episodes I loved, but as a whole, it was mid-tier for me. I'm curious what you guys thought about it, and especially Roxanne. Roxanne actually got to watch this one, so I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious from different people's perspectives, and because this was a more female-centric show, what did a woman think of the show?
Yeah.
Do you want to say your opinion first, Cam?
I mean, sure, I do also have a voice message, but I'm going to save it for later, because it does come into Black Panther, so I'll talk about that later on. Thank you for sending that, by the way. Qualin, hope I got that right. But yeah, my opinion of the show, I thought it was really good. Like, it definitely tried something incredibly new in terms of the MCU. We've never seen really anything like this before in the MCU. Of course, we have She-Hulk, one of the more famous Marvel characters who aren't quite, as popular as somebody like her cousin, the Hulk. So it was very nice to see them try and tackle a character like that. And of course, the fourth wall breaking was, of course, incredibly new to the MCU. We haven't seen that yet, but it could be like testing the waters a bit for Deadpool 3 in the MCU. Because we know that's going to be the case. So I do like that they dragged in some other characters that really they didn't need to, but they did, and they did it well. Yeah. My prime example of that would be the one and only Wong.
Yeah. I agree with you wholeheartedly there. I thought the different characters they added in, aside from Daredevil, were fun and interesting and used very well, actually.
Yeah. Now, Daredevil. Oh, God. Roxanne, do you want to take this?
Oh, you've had a nightmare with this, though.
Yeah.
I'm a fan, so I'm curious what other people thought about it, because I'm probably really biased.
You see, I liked Daredevil, but I kept predicting when he was going to show up, and pretty much every time I did, I got it wrong. Until the one time I actively didn't predict it. I even said, I'm not predicting it for the... Honestly, I said, I'm not going to predict it for this episode, because I might manifest it to become true, and what do you know? It worked.
Yeah. I mean, from the episode that they teased his helmet, my prediction videos, I was saying, he's not going to show up in the next episode because the story hasn't built to that spot yet, and he's not going to show up in the next episode because I pinpointed it. I called it. I was like, it's episode 8 because he's not going to be. He might be in the finale, but it's not going to be his episode because it's her show.
Damn.
And so
okay,
I was like, episode 8. He's going to be in episode 8, and the story finally kind of got there. The only thing I was a little off on with was how they used leapfrog, but I really loved the way they used it. Really funny.
Yeah. But as Roxanne can probably tell you, I was predicting him literally every single episode of the show.
You were an eager beaver to see Daredevil appear, and then the one time you just say, no, okay, it's not going to happen. Suddenly your dreams
Bang.
come true.
Did you like the way that
didn't.
Did you like that
it did not disappoint. Yeah. It did not disappoint.
Yeah, I've heard all kinds of. It's so funny that again, the people that were already actively hated She-Hulk, that's fine. You don't have to like it, but they pushed those same critiques onto Daredevil. The same. Well, the CG's bad in She-Hulk, and the writing is bad, and and it's too slapstick, and it's funny this and funny that. They pushed all that onto, and like. He didn't do anything out of character, so it never really bothered me. Right down, like, well, he's Catholic, so he shouldn't have slept with her. I'm like, did you watch the Netflix show? Like,
yeah.
There were several moments where like he did exactly that, and even then, they never explained is this Netflix Daredevil or is this something new? So you couldn't really make those comparisons just yet.
No,
and but I thought they used him well, and I was glad that they went to the yellow and red costume, even if it was only as a way to keep from having to address those deeper questions that they're going to answer with his own series, So and giving you like the writers and the directors of She-Hulk giving you their own little homage to the hallway fight scenes from the Netflix show was gold.
Absolutely.
They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to give you a Daredevil only fight scene, but they did, and it was fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah. And I do want to point out that particular scene because the way I can describe them both in that scene was like Daredevil was like a scalpel, precise, quick, and calculated. She-Hulk, sledgehammer.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. Them making jokes. Like, I'm not going to sit up here for 30 minutes while you fight something. Like, they're poking at the Netflix series is what they're doing.
Oh,
like,
yeah. Absolutely.
There are these long, drawn-out fight sequences. And she's like, it's almost like saying, this is my show. This is a quick show. Like, let's just do it and get done with it. Was funny. And I'll say this about the show. I said it every week, and I will stand by it. You cannot like the CG. That's fine. They made a joke about that in the finale too. They're very
absolutely.
You cannot like the story. You cannot like the characters, but the writing,
was brilliant.
Natural pacing of the writing, the way they wrote those characters, the way that those characters delivered lines, and the way that it actually went smoothly from episode to episode, even when they were like, oh, this is a wedding episode. And she breaks the fourth wall to say, yeah, this feels a little standalone, doesn't it? Like, they were very aware of those things, and they wrote it very well. Nothing made massive jumps, except for the finale when they needed to make that jump in order to tell the story they wanted to tell. So I said it from the get-go. I was like, the Easter eggs and the way that they utilize the characters has been done very well, which means the writing is on point. So I'm trusting them with the story, and I think they did really well with that. The other stuff is definitely objective, but I thought they knocked that out of the park. So
yeah.
Roxanne, what did you think? What was your perspective on the whole thing? Because I've had very few opportunities to talk to any women about what did you think about the show?
Well, because I haven't been able to watch many of the Marvel series anyway, getting into it was actually pretty easy. I liked how they were representing the women in it. So for Jennifer and how she's portrayed, I personally quite like that because it wasn't too. I want to use the word flaky per se because it's not like she's going in there being overly bossy, strong, independent woman stereotype, but
Right.
somebody who is going in there just to get the job done because it's more like she has to rather than it's weird to explain, but I did like it with how it was portrayed, how the story was going. So it, from like
Nice.
a woman's point of view on it, I don't see why there was many complaints against it because I personally thought it was all right. It was all on the clear for quite a few bits. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I will admit, I was sad to see all the hate the show was getting because I thought, oh, this is the side of Marvel, the Marvel fandom that I knew existed but never wanted to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate the idea that, I mean, I get that people are attached to their characters, they're attached to the stories they grew up with, but Marvel has told you time and time again in their movies, and the comics bear this out. There's different runs of comics. They're done by different people. There's different stories. They're rebooted all the
Yep.
time. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay to let it be something new and build something new.
Yeah.
And I think She-Hulk was very aware going in, like, and it would be fun to rewatch that show and say, okay, what was the story they were trying to tell when they first started writing it? You know,
Yeah.
what's the story we want to tell? We want to talk about Jen. We want to talk about Jen balancing her powers, or we want to talk about Jen coming to terms with being a Hulk, not necessarily coming to terms with being a woman Hulk, but just coming to terms with
But a
a
Hulk.
Hulk.
Yeah.
And how would that work? And what would she face in her world? And then as they started telling that story, did they start realizing there are people that are not going to like this, or there are people that are going to say, well, that's just a woman's perspective. Well, that's just this. And when they started realizing those things, did they then get very meta and tongue in cheek about, like, look, she breaks the fourth wall. We should just address this head on. We should just poke
Yeah.
fun at the, no, you're going to hate this. Because when it's all said and done, you know, as much anger as people had about her saying in the first episode, you know, I don't get angry, you know, I don't get angry like you do because I'm a woman. Uh, she not only she proved, yes, I don't get angry like you do, and I'm in control of certain things, but she also did end up proving Bruce right, because it's not just that she knows how to control her anger, but when she does get angry, because she has that Hulk strength, what would normally be a regular temper tantrum ends up, you know, where normally, you know, oh, I'm going to throw a glass across the room, or I'm going to flip a table. She can actually bust through a wall. She can actually cause
Yeah.
major damage. And so that's the problem, is being able to keep that in check, to be able to keep your power in check, which I think is
Yeah.
something that men and women have to deal with. The only
Oh, yeah.
difference is women, I think a lot of times in our culture, women rarely have that kind of power. So at what point is that kind of power the problem, whether you're male or female? And what things do people just need to let go of? Because a woman having power is not wrong. Neither is a man having power, but how you use that power, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's the story.
Exactly.
And then using that same idea in the finale to poke fun at people, right down to Jen woman-splaining, if you want to use that language, woman-splaining how the Marvel universe functions in a woman's
Yeah.
perspective to the Kevin robot, right?
Oh.
Like, while she was talking, I actually made the note. I was like, she's totally woman-splaining. which is great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, listen up, because this is a perspective that is part of the journey, and you need to listen to it. I thought was really funny. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
But did you have you guys and it was just I just thought it was an interesting thing. Have you ever heard of the Bechdel test? BECH.
No.
Okay.
I haven't,
So
no.
the Bechdel test is this idea, and I can go back into it. It's a measure of whether or not a movie or a story contains gender equality or gender inequality. And you can Wikipedia it,
Oh.
Bechdel. There's a whole list of movies and shows and things like that. Like, do they pass the Bechdel test? And the idea, the three main points of it are the three main rules to pass the test are there at least two women featured in the movie. They're not supporting characters or not side characters. Are there two women featured? Do those women talk to each other? And when they do they discuss something other than a man? And then it becomes a measure of how often does that happen, right? And so there were actually parts in this show that even though it seemed very feminine and woman centric, it didn't pass that test. Like Bruce and Jen, that whole first episode, with the exception of the opening scene and the ending scene.
Yeah.
Because in the opening, she's talking to us, she's talking to Nikki, and at the end, she's doing the same thing, and she's fighting Titania. There's quite a few scenes and quite a few parts of that episode. The episode 8 doesn't pass that test at all because it's her and Daredevil the entire time.
Yep.
There's a lot of scenes and a lot of parts of that show that don't pass that test. So a lot of this hatred is ill-founded if you're gonna go strictly by feminist metrics. But a lot of men would, and a lot of other people would watch that show and go, it was garbage, it was trash, she shouldn't be twerking and doing this and doing that and blah, blah. These are the same people that would sit in the movie theater and go bonkers over the fact that Captain America, they waited through the credits of Spider-Man to see Captain America sit down in a chair and basically tell them, hey, you waited all this time for nothing.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, I loved it. I just, if talking Marvel stuff, if you wanted to go down that road, and there's a whole list of Marvel movies that fit that criteria and pass that test, and a bunch that don't. Just to highlight how few times women interact and talk about something other than a man, which I'm really hesitant to like add that part in there because it's 50% of the population. So there's, I mean, if you put that into does that mean that like a story is only man centric if two men are featured and they don't talk about a woman? Because a lot of times that's all men talk about when they get together.
Yeah.
So, whatever. But I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit to throw in there.
Huh.
But I'm curious about these guys' comments. I've been sitting on their comments for a little bit, so I'm curious.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll open one of them now. Again, I'll talk about the one about Black Panther when I get to that in a few minutes. But yeah, I'll open this first one now. Oh.
I like She-Hulk. Big Marvel fan. I'm 40 years old. I've been watching and reading and doing all of it for many, many years. I liked She-Hulk. The ending, I wasn't... because I understand how great they were doing with the meta and, Kevin and the little hat and everything that they did. I didn't actually have a problem with that. My actual problem with has been what they've done with Abomination. He feels very Disneyfied, which again, I don't have a problem with Disney. I've cheered on Marvel being bought out by Disney for all these years. I love seeing, I'm a massive Marvel fan, so I just love seeing it everywhere as much as possible. But Thor 4, Abomination, just some of this stuff. I mean, I just wish we could kind of get back to Ragnarok Winter Soldier vibes. You know, a little bit of comedy. I know Winter Soldier wasn't as much comedy, but I'd like a blend of kind of somewhere in between that, personally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, first off, J-Mac representing the other 40-year-old room here. Go you. I hit 40 a couple months ago.
Oh, congrats. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy late birthday.
Can we just say, J-Mac's voice is nice and deep and sultry, man.
Yeah.
got a little,
Whoa.
Man, that voice, dude. That's a
Whoa.
Nice to meet you. I can't even fake it. It's so good. Good voice. Man.
Yep. Wow.
I would agree with that. I would agree with.
Yeah.
You know, I like that. I like that we get to see other sides of characters. But if you go back and watch, and probably for me, it was because there was so much time between, and that probably made it easier because there was so much time between Incredible Hulk Abomination and this version of Abomination, and they start off really fast by letting you know, like where Blonsky starts talking about like, hey, I'm reformed and I'm this and I'm that, and they kind of try their best to cleanse your palate.
Yeah.
By giving lines where it's like, I'm reformed, I'm this different version. I guess it softened the blow, but I would agree that he was a little bit softer, and I wonder, I'm hoping, again, I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to Marvel, hoping that they did that because a darker version of him would not follow the tenor of the show. And that might have been one of the storylines that they needed to weave in to move that character forward so they could use him later. Maybe he's darker in the Thunderbolts, but they did soften him a bit. The same way they not necessarily softened Hulk in terms of his story, because I'm okay with the fact that he went from this massive rage monster to like Professor Hulk, and he could shift back at any moment and that kind of thing. I'm okay with kind of following that arc until he gets back to some of that. But, you know, in Infinity War, he fights Thanos, you know, really, really hard. He's really violent. He's really violent in Incredible Hulk, and he seems super duper strong, and he can do all these things. And he seemed a lot like his punches didn't seem to hit as hard. That's a thing. And so, yeah, I can see that, you know, where J-Mac's coming from, that they've kind of softened some of it at the moment. I wonder.
Bit of a calm before the storm, maybe?
That's what I'm hoping for. That's a really good way to put that. I am hoping that there's some darker elements, and Werewolf by Night definitely kind of dealt with that, but kind of diversifying some of these things and then weaving back in the darker elements as an overall theme rather than like, and maybe when they get around to Daredevil and some other characters, it won't be as light and colorful. It will have that they'll utilize a lot of those different elements. I'm hoping because they needed to keep it lighter because the tenor of the show was lighter, and rather than, I mean, I would say Wong is probably a good example of how they not only used a character that could do both, but they utilized his lighter sides, and it came across well.
Yeah.
Opposed to like Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, where it's very dark.
Incredibly.
Yeah, and his character actually thrived well in that environment. So maybe this is just the first time we've seen Abomination again, and when we see him in some other storylines, the darker elements will come back out again. I don't know, but it's they've put out some things. Thor, Love and Thunder being one of them that can divide the space pretty well.
New voice message. Oh, J-Mac has come back.
Go for it.
Oh, 1 second.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'm hopeful as well that you know, I'm okay with everything that's currently happening. I even liked WandaVision. I liked how that story progressed. I liked I liked seeing differences in each of these stories. I really liked Loki. Falcon and the Winter Soldier I thought was a little bit interesting. It wasn't my favorite, but again, too, I'm able to, I think, look at these pretty rationally. And what I'm hoping for is seeing all of this kind of overarching, into something different and greater and bigger, which it seems like they're going to be doing too. I also was reading that what they intend to do, that Werewolf by Night did so well that they're thinking about introducing a bunch of X-Men with one shot. So seeing how they kind of enter into the universe with these one shots. It's rumored at this point, but that'd be a very interesting way to introduce them individually.
And I hope that's true.
Yeah, that would be very cool. I love that we actually the word X-Men in the She-Hulk show.
Yes, that was amazing. I was like, yes! Thank you, Jen.
I looked at the camera and kind of gave everybody a wink, like, yep, I got it. Loved it.
Yeah.
I hope they do that. I've heard the same kind of rumors, J-Mac. I think that they're, and if you look at the TV shows that they've got slated, they're I think there's one more, and I can't remember exactly which, but there's not really anything else on the slate for a little while.
Yeah.
But these special presentations, I think, could bridge the gap between, we don't want to have to wait week to week for a show. Bridge the gap between that but we don't need a full movie to tell this story.
Yeah.
Because Werewolf by Night, I thought, was pitch perfect as far as it didn't need a full series, although I could have taken plenty more. But it also wasn't so long that they added so much fluff into it that it was like, okay, you didn't need that. It was just good.
I do have to be honest, I've not seen it yet.
Yeah. So we won't talk about that too much, but
no spoilers.
The horror aspects of it, fantastic. And I love old school horror. I love new horror films. The gorier, the better. I think the black and white aspect of it did exactly what they wanted it to do in multiple terms. And I think, as far as, teasing some more gory stuff for what they might want to do with Deadpool. I think they're testing the waters and seeing what they can do and how they're going to do it. And then using the black and white, I think when other shows start talking about that character, or they start talking about Werewolf by Night, or, hey, did you hear about Elsa Bloodstone, or did you hear about, this guy or that person, or these murders, or that or this, because they did it in black and white, it will feel like these people are talking about something that happened in mythology, or something that's something that happened so far away that it has this mysticism to it, this mysteriousness to it. So I thought that was really good, but I won't go any further into that because I don't want to spoil it for you.
Cool. Now I've got another message from J-Mac.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And 1 hour was just enough to get a little bit of a flavor for Werewolf by Night and Man-Thing, and even Lisa Bloodstone. We don't know much about them still, but that's okay. Like, I think they did that really, really well. And I would like to see that. I mean, there are going to be some characters that, like Wolverine, you're probably going to want a little bit more. But if you're going to introduce in some X-Men that maybe, I don't know, let's just, example, Jubilee. I don't need a full 6-episode series to understand Jubilee. So in 1 hour, or even sometimes probably maybe even 45 minutes, 30 minutes for certain characters, that'd be a great way just to, boom, here they are, one shot in, and then they continue on into another story. I think that might actually be a really great idea that they got there.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I like that. I take that back. I made a comment about there's not a ton of TV shows upcoming. There aren't any for about 3 or 4 months. But
yeah.
I'm way off. Now, I'm not counting the animated series, but live action stuff, Agatha, Coven of Chaos, Echo, Loki season 2, Ironheart.
Armor Wars is now a movie.
Armor Wars is now a movie, and then Secret Invasion. So there's will be coming out next year, but I think they hit on something with these special presentations, and they might be able to spread out a little, to avoid. I don't know. I think you run the risk of, if you spread them out enough so that it doesn't feel like you've got Disney overload, then you're kind of encouraging everybody to watch and digest everything. But if you have movie options, television options, and these special out, you're by having them overlap or having them so frequently, you're kind of driving home the point that there's something for everybody. So
Yeah.
I kind of like that they keep them pretty constant. On a more selfish note, it also makes it easier to put content out on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I don't have to come up with something new. I can review shows and do prediction videos and talk to you guys.
Yeah.
But it's I like what they're doing so far, and I think, you know, you have to remember that, you know, even though there are some movies that we look back on fondly in phase one, you know, and we say, oh, those were so good. I remember when I first saw Thor, and after watching Incredible Hulk and Iron Man, Thor felt way different. And the Shakespearean nature of the way that Thor talked and how
Yeah.
it was weird to me. It was off-putting, and it wasn't until we got into some other movies and we got to Avengers that I really felt like, okay, this is going someplace. This feels big. And so there's things in phase 4. I mean, the expectations are through the roof, but they've had some really awesome stuff, and the variety has been awesome. And you've gotten continuations of stories. And I think if you thought everybody coming together in phase 1, phase 2 for Avengers, how much bigger is it going to be when you take all of these stories and wherever they're going and do Kang and Secret Invasion and Secret Wars? And they haven't even tapped into the X-Men and Fantastic Four. There are so many storylines, man. They're going to be around for a long, long time.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'm very much looking forward to the next decade of the MCU, because we know Kevin Feige has recently planned that out.
Yep.
So I'm very much looking forward to what he's got in stock for the next 10 years. And yeah, I would love to see each X-Men member introduced in like one of those hour-long special presentations. Like, I would love for a Cyclops one, the Beast, Storm, Jean Grey, literally all of them. Hell, even do one for Professor X.
Yeah, I think Storm is a good one, is a good candidate for that, because her backstory, I think it could be really important. You could throw some Wakanda things in there if you wanted to. There's all kinds of cool stuff you could throw in there with Storm.
Yeah.
And Wolverine would definitely be a good one for a, you know, get an origin story, especially if you're needing to recast him. That would be a good way to introduce him. So when he pops in the movie, people aren't, you know, that you can get all their anger out on a TV show and calm them down before a movie.
Yeah. Although if Deadpool 3's anything to go by with Wolverine,
I definitely think he's going to be in. I think they use it as a real big, like, okay, here he is. Now he's gone.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
I think it would be so funny if he was in it and he part of it, but they used it as this big, like, stop talking about Hugh Jackman. He's done. He's gone. It's over. Like, I think I would be wetting myself in the theater.
Yep. It's like Venom in No Way Home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yep,
like
here he is. Gone.
Oh, no, never mind. Yeah, I was like, my whole reaction was just, yes. Wait, no.
Oh, I was so happy to watch it here, because as much as I like Venom, and I think they did good with the CG on Venom,
yeah.
Tom Hardy is not believable as a everyman nerdy journalist.
No. No.
I don't. He just, every time he tries to play it like aloof, and I'm just like, come on, man! Like, you can't pull that off. And it's the way he looks, it's the same problem I have with Andrew Garfield not as Spider-Man. He's an awesome Spider-Man, but Andrew Garfield as Peter. Yeah, he is far too good looking to get bullied. I'm
And
sorry.
way too confident.
Yeah, he's far. You can't look that good and not be confident and or also get bullied. Like there's nobody in their right mind that would look at an Abercrombie and Fitch model and bully him. Like you just can't.
No.
Like you don't know how skinny he is. Like he's just good looking. You can't do that.
No.
He could be,
Unrealistic standards coming from Marvel here.
he could be in band
Yeah.
wearing a headgear, and people would still be like, "That's a gorgeous man." You just can't.
No.
You just can't. And I had that same problem with Tom Hardy. So when he disappeared out of that episode, and it was basically Marvel going, "Yeah, this is its own unit." Like, okay, Sony, we'll throw you a bone, but this is your own. This is its own universe. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, but no. I was like, thank you very much. Go away.
So, She-Hulk, we've gathered, was incredible. I do want to quickly ask, what was your favorite episode? Both of you, actually.
I'll throw Deadpool. I'll throw the Daredevil episode out for a second because
Yeah.
That character is what made that episode.
Yeah.
I love the finale, what it was, but it was so different. If I'm just going to go by the standalone episodes, the Wong and Madison episode,
Yes.
they were so funny. But yeah, the finale was pretty excellent, and the Daredevil episode was awesome too. But if you take my overly confident optimism and the fact that the finale and it was super meta, it'd probably be either that Madison Wong episode or the Blonsky Retreat Center episode with Man Bull and all those guys. That was just funny. That was really
yeah. Roxanne, what would yours be?
Because I don't have acquired taste like both of you, who are very seasoned in this department. Funnily enough, it was episode 5 where they had some Titania ended up trademarking She-Hulk.
Oh.
I found that really interesting to watch, especially with how it ended up developing, all the plot twists that came through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
I mean,
and right down to the change in the title when they started changing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny.
Oh, that was amazing.
Yep.
Okay, and my favorite episode is gonna have to be the Daredevil episode. It was too good. It was too good.
It's great.
And I believe we have one last message from J-Mac.
Yeah.
Give it a second.
Yeah, another great point. You know, what they're setting up now, I mean, we're going to get so much stuff. We haven't even tapped into... Doctor Doom, Galactus, Kang is coming. We know that for sure. And that's going to be just huge alone, too. Like, a lot of the people that are having just an absolute... that are beside themselves with what's going on right now. If you're not looking at it long term, you couldn't have possibly have seen Avengers in 2008, right? We didn't fully understand that was going to be happening. So you just have to let it unfold. And they've gotten better at what they do. And hey, Thor, Love and Thunder, I tried to like, and I just can't. I thought Taiki went way too far on the nonsense. Nobody is that witty all the time, right? I would like to hope that even, I could be sometimes witty. It's just not realistic. It was too many jokes. It was too ridiculous, and I just couldn't get into it.
Honestly, J-Mac, I have to agree. Like, back in 2008 when Iron Man dropped, no way could anyone have predicted what came next. No one.
With Thor: Love and Thunder, I agree. If you're just looking at a character arc and you're just saying, okay, how has this character evolved? As a viewer, you've got to dig way too hard in Thor: Love and Thunder to find his character arc. Like you have to keep it very shallow when it comes to what did we learn about Thor that was new. And really the only thing really pull from was his relationship with Jane and the fact that he has a child now, right?
Yeah.
The rest of it, and if you go back and watch it that way, it's wildly entertaining, but the fact that they didn't make it more in your face means a lot of people missed it. The whole movie starts off with Korg talking about the legend of Thor, the legend of the god of thunder. And so if you watch the whole movie from the perspective of what if this is Korg telling the story to a bunch of children,
it would make sense that it's like that.
It's hilarious. It gets really, the tongue-in-cheek stuff, the ridiculous things that get said, the viewpoint of all these different things is really, really funny. But if that was going to be the overarching, like, hey, you need to get this point, then they needed to do a better job of it so that you didn't. There's sometimes that you really have to speak the audience, because when there's a whole lot going on, they miss those things.
Yeah.
And there's some aspects of a movie that you shouldn't have to go back and
look at.
You shouldn't have to go back and rewatch. A director shouldn't have to say, well, go back and rewatch it and you'll see what I mean. No, if you did your job well the first time, everybody got it.
Yeah.
But either way, it was a lot more Taika than it was Thor. And he struck a better balance in the third movie. And he might be one of those guys that actually needs a little bit of guidance, and Feige and crew let the reins off of him more in Love and Thunder than they did in Rock, because they had a particular direction they were going, right? And so that may have been the cause of this was just a lot of threads and a lot of ridiculousness that is fun to watch in the theater and is very fun and entertaining. But if you're a Thor fan and you're looking for a storyline to follow, it was really to watch.
Yeah. Now I've got one last reply from J Mac, and once we've done this, I do want to move on to Black Panther: Wakanda Forever real quick, so I get some thoughts about that in.
We can start that off with Quaylen's comment.
Yeah, I'll do, J Max. We'll talk about that real briefly, and then head over to Quaylen's.
Yeah.
Yeah, after credits, and everybody, my issue was, if you follow the track of Thor 1 to 4, you're right. You have to dig deep in order to try and make sense of this, especially the personality shift. Like, I understand so much has happened. It's almost like, considering what had happened to him and his family, you would think he'd be more brooding rather than switching it the other way. Is just my opinion. Like, how do you get funnier and more lighthearted, and just kind of really cornbally, rather than more brooding. And then Christian Bale was, I just, Gore the God Butcher, I just found he did such a great job, but it was just, it wasn't utilized in the proper movie. Guardians of the Galaxy just felt like they were just shoehorned in there.
Yep.
Yeah, I could go on and on about the movie. I really wanted to like it. Like, I went there excited, and I don't hate it. I don't like what they did.
Yeah, the Guardians thing, I thought they were going to make more out of that after the game. And when I heard that they were going to be in it, I thought, oh, this is going to be a continuation of where did they go together and what are they doing together? And it was just like, oh, see ya. It was almost like they retconned it immediately. It was like Endgame and the Russos added that in there. And then when Taika got to it, it was like, yeah, I don't have time to do that, and I don't want to ruin James Gunn's story, so we're done with them. Which I guess you have to do if you're not gonna. You either have to own it and move forward with it, or you have to get rid of them to do your own story. So, yeah, I definitely agree with that. Loved Christian Bale; he did so good. But that juxtaposed with the cornballiness of it, right up until the final battle, and I really think the final battle was great in Eternity, where he gives the kids the power and they all fight together, and then like. That was really serious, and I loved it. That was really great. But it was because Thor got serious, and the kids were the avenue by which you could make it lighthearted. They actually used the characters as they were intended to make the scene lighthearted, which I think is, if we're getting back to She-Hulk real quick, that's where She-Hulk really shined. When they used the natural tone of the character and put that character in a situation that was weird and let that character be themselves, it made for a funny situation, like Wong and Madison.
Yeah.
Or like Jen at Blonsky's retreat center. Where it was difficult is where they put Jen, where they put Nikki and Pug, who weren't slapstick and goofy and, hey, we're just bros together. And they threw them into a situation like, oh, we got to go find this drip broker. We got to go find clothes for Jen. And they put them in a room with Luke Jacobson, and they make them act all goofy and silly in a way that they hadn't acted before.
Yeah.
It's like they had to turn the characters into something else to make it interesting. And that episode was one of the weakest ones for me. So in that regard, like, I really agree with what J-Mac's saying about, they didn't utilize certain characters that they could have used to make something way better, and they overemphasized certain things for the fun of it, which is only good to a certain point, and then it kind of gets old.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
right.
Let's have his comment, and we won't respond to it, and then we'll hit up Quaylen's.
Okay. Sorry, J-Mac. I'll have to just leave this one as it is. Sorry.
Well, he did great with Ragnarok, right? Like, I think Ragnarok was a very good blend of, just starting to lighten up Thor a little bit from Thor 2. It was acceptable, right? The kind of the jokes he had between him and Loki. It was acceptable. It was understandable. But you're right. They were like, wow, Taiki did such a great job. I think they let him off his leash, and he just went way, way too far. Again, my opinion. I still did like parts about the movie. You're right. I did like certain arcs. But again, too, Zeus. Zeus was so corny. I did not like what they did with Zeus. I thought Russell Crowe did a great job, but anyways, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. Now, for Quaylen.
On Wakanda.
Does anyone else feel like them not just recasting Chadwick might be a little bit more insulting than retiring the character of T'Challa?
No, because that's actually exactly what he wanted.
Yep. No, I don't think so either.
No.
And the argument has come back up again with Harrison Ford being rumored to be cast as Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah.
In the Ross movie, and I feel like I have a good response for both of those things. And I haven't put it on TikTok or ranted about it anywhere, because if I do, I will rant about it, and I need to actually have a coherent conversation about it. But with Chadwick Boseman, like, it was so unexpected, and it was he did such a good job as that character to begin with, that it's not like recasting Terrence Howard as Rhodey, and putting Don Cheadle in there, where you can make a tongue-in-cheek reference like, hey, I'm here, it's me, let's get over it. And I know they wouldn't do that for Chadwick Boseman, but the way he played that character so well, coupled with the fact that other people have played Black Panther in the comic books.
Yeah.
It was easy to honor Chadwick by retiring him as that character and handing it off to somebody else. And I think later on, could they pass the mantle to somebody else other than Shuri, other than somebody else that's another male lead that might be able to carry that character? That could be something that pops up. But the difference between that and honoring that character and that person and using the comic books to move away from into a different story. And I think we probably all need to just temper our frustration about that until we see Wakanda Forever and see how they do.
Yeah.
The difference between that and recasting Thunderbolt Ross is, one, as good an actor as William Hurt is, Thunderbolt was not in enough movies for you to go
connect with him properly.
To connect with him properly, where you go, you can't recast him. And they need that guy, that character, to springboard this Thunderbolts movie and the Red Hulk storyline. Because the whole idea of, and the only way I could see them getting around that is recognizing, using somebody like Contessa Valentina and saying, hey, General Thunderbolt Ross passed away, and so in honor of him, we're going to name this group the Thunderbolts. I could see them doing that, or saying, oh, he died, and then Red Hulk popping up and people saying, oh, realizing, oh, that's General Ross, and you never see him as a person again. Yeah, you could do that, but I think you got to jump through more hoops to make that happen than you do of just saying, hey, let's just recast him, because he's really only been a side character anyway. He's a pop-up character. You put Harrison Ford in there as a character draw, as an actor draw, to lend a little more star power to this movie that we're putting out, that and use that, turn him into Red Hulk, and then move on, and you never have to as a person, right? And they could even, when he transforms into Red Hulk, you could even make him look like William Hurt if you wanted to, and you wouldn't have to worry about that. But if you need that character to finish telling that story, then do it. But I think there's a better avenue to do that with Chadwick Boseman without having to recast T'Challa. Than there is this other one.
Just going to quickly do another voice message from Quaylen.
Everything that I've read have said that Chadwick's wishes were to be would have been to be recast. You could have more information than me though, so I very well could be wrong. But to me, it just seems a bit silly, right? Like I get that he was a great actor and all. I don't feel like that we got enough of T'Challa. We would have never done that to Batman or the Joker.
I mean, yeah, we didn't get enough of T'Challa. You're absolutely right, but unfortunately, we lost T'Challa.
Even if we recast him, for that to happen, it would be extremely big shoes to fill. And if you think about if they ended up releasing a film with a recast T'Challa, there would be a lot of judgment between the previous and the newer one, and that it wouldn't be fair on the character to be judged simply because they had no other choice but to recast them. So it might be an easier way than just not casting them, but I think it's the right decision in order to not paint the character per se. Because if they were to just recast, it wouldn't be fair on the next actor, because they would be in the line of fire.
Yeah, I mean that's in that regard, Quaylen, I would not argue, but I would agree with anybody that's taken on the Batman mantle. I mean, as soon as people said Ben Affleck's going to be Batman, or Robert Pattinson's going to be Batman, or Heath Ledger's going to be Joker, it was like, no, like there was such anger about it. and then people still saying, well, he wasn't like Jack Nicholson's Joker, or he wasn't like this. I think those are hard shoes to fill, as far as not the actor and how well he did, but the character, and because the storyline, I don't know, I think it flowed more naturally. Now, with regard to did Chadwick Boseman want I've ever seen that said that he should be recast, where his brother had a conversation with Chadwick, and he said it needed to be recast. But the reason he thought it needed to be recast was because he thought that it was important for Black America to see a Black superhero. So in that regard, I think Marvel's still on those wishes, albeit with a female hero, and maybe they can revisit a male hero in the future that people can get more, they can get behind without that actual actor having to fight against, well, do I pretend to act like Chadwick did? Do I pretend to act like somebody else? Those kind of things. but at the same time, you know, they wouldn't have done that with Batman or the Joker. You know, they and I think this is more of a DC problem than a Marvel problem, which is why I would say let's wait to see what Marvel does with it. DC definitely did that between the Dark Knight, between Nolan's Dark Knight series and the between the Dark Knight series and or trilogy and the Justice League movies, because and honestly, it's an argument that made. Whether Christian Bale wanted to play it again or not, I would have paid that man whatever they needed to pay him to get him to be Batman for at least one more movie alongside Superman in Batman versus Superman, because Christopher Nolan did such a good job of creating that character that, and because Heath Ledger died, they were forced to have to recast the Joker or do something different with him. But you'll notice every time they have recast him or they've put him in something else, Todd Phillips' version of the Joker was more of an origin story, and it was set in the past. So it was a different iteration of the Joker that they can then kind of jump over Heath Ledger's version. Or with this Robert Pattinson Batman, the whole series is set as Batman year 1 or year 2. So the version of Joker you're getting there is a different version as well. So they have massaged the timelines in order to get around having to use the same actor, because they can't. But they should have used Christian Bale at least one more time. And for whatever reason, they chose to not, and they recast him. And I think it did. I think it's one of the reasons that it did such a disservice when they went Batman versus Superman. Justice League. Not only that, but they left Zack Snyder at the helm, and that's a totally different argument altogether. But they've recast Batman a couple of times. They used Michael Keaton twice, and then they
Val Kilmer.
They went to Val Kilmer, then they went to George Clooney, and George Clooney's movie almost killed the whole series. And so they got away from that. And now with these Flashpoint movies, they're going to go back to, surprise, surprise, Michael Keaton. But they're liable to use him and say, well, this is just a multiverse thing. And the only reason DC is doing that is because they made a botched mess of their whole timeline. They have to jump into the multiverse immediately and use this Flash movie to salvage their whole universe, so they can get back to doing what they should have been doing the whole time. Again, I think the only reason that DC never would have done that is because they didn't know what they were doing to begin with. So we don't have anything to measure it against.
Like, one example I could think of why T'Challa being recast wouldn't work. Say, I don't know, some point after Avengers 1, Robert Downey Jr. passed away. And they have to recast Tony Stark. And let's be honest, even at that point, Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man. No one else could play him, even that early on in the game. How on earth would anyone be able to replace him? As the same version of the character? Because, I get your point about Batman and Joker, but they're all different versions of the character. This would still be the MCU T'Challa, played originally by Chadwick Boseman.
And we could put with the multiverse now. They could pull in another actor who named T'Challa to play to be, or they could pull in another actor and call him T'Challa, but he's from another universe, and so he looks different. And that way, but it fits the story naturally, and it still honors that person in that regard. But let's hit some of Quaylen's comments, because I know we only have so much time, and I'm interested to see what he's saying here about. Go for it.
Okay, I'm gonna play the first one first, and then the most recent one next.
Yeah, we'll play them back.
I'm glad that you mentioned representation, because I didn't want to be the one to bring it up, but I do have to say that is like the root of my complaint. And I feel as if we, in the MCU, there aren't enough strong black male lead roles. And I feel like recasting Chadwick, while it might on the surface feel like the honorific thing to do, The community feels like that's garbage. How many people we've watched play Spider-Man, how many people we've watched play Superman, how many people we watched play Batman, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. But now with T'Challa, suddenly he's the actor that can't be replaced.
Yeah.
Fair point. And
Yeah.
you're right. That isn't enough.
That's an interesting perspective. I like that. I think Marvel's already. I think they're already so behind. I mean, it's unfortunate that Chadwick died and they had to make that decision now.
Yeah.
There were, I think, to agree with Quaylen, I think if there were more black superheroes, more black representation in the MCU,
Yeah.
in feature roles, it would be less of a blow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's one area they definitely need to get to. And the same argument, I say the same argument, not the same argument, but an argument for there's not enough representation with Asian communities, Hispanic.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. It needs to happen, and it needs to, and which is, again, if you want to get into it later on, we could have a conversation, at another time about the danger of them making Kang. It would be very easy if you don't have enough black superheroes and black good guys to balance it out. It'd be very easy to make it look like all the white guys are fighting the evil black guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Kang,
That is it. Yeah.
You could hit some really dangerous territory if you're not careful.
Incredibly dangerous. Yeah.
But with them, Nick Fury, Miles Morales,
Yeah.
War Machine, Luke Cage, Storm, Falcon, who's now Captain America, they're getting there. But
Yeah.
more visible and more often. And you will start hitting some areas where people will get mad that they, like what if they made Foggy Nelson black in the Daredevil Born Again show?
Yeah.
So that they had more representation. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
As long as it sticks to the style of that person, the personality of that character. But I guarantee you'd have some people that were like, he was white and you can't do that and blah, 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 blah. Who cares? Like you need to see those things and show those things more often. And in order to do that, you may have to either create new characters that aren't in the comics or recast or reframe some characters as non-white characters in order to make sure that you are accurately representing the world that we live in right now, which is what comic books did so well for so long.
Yeah. But yeah, I have to agree. We need to bring in characters like Miles Morales ASAP. But yeah, now onto this next message.
It's coming.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta hand it to you. Whenever you use the example of RDJ, I get where you're coming from a bit more, because it would have been not a great move to try to recast him.
Yeah, which is why I think Chadwick and T'Challa is kind of the same thing, because T'Challa, if Chadwick in another timeline had lived and survived his cancer, could have been probably one of the most influential characters of the new phase of the MCU. But sadly, we didn't get that. Tragically, he did pass away to the shock of pretty much everybody. So I think we now just need to let the MCU version of that character rest and hope and pray that Shuri is able to pick up where her brother left off. Because, like I said, T'Challa could have been amazing as a character, but sadly, this timeline said no.
Hey, can we hit Quaylen's last comment and then kind of wrap up?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry, Quaylen. This is going to be the end of it in a moment. Oops.
I totally agree what you say about representation. I feel like it's important that we be careful with it, though, because there's some characters where on the surface it might not seem like their race has a lot to do with it, but if you look a little further, it does. Like, I'll use Iron Man, for example. If you were to race swap Iron Man, a black billionaire has completely different implications than a white billionaire. You know what I mean? Like, if he's a white billionaire, he's kind of just one of many. But if he was to be a black billionaire, he's likely the first to be that wealthy in the universe or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it changes the story a bit.
Like Tyler Perry becoming on. Yeah, no, I get it's different. It has different cultural implications given where our society is in a lot of ways, and you're able to tell certain stories. I think that's one of the things that's pretty endearing about Robert Downey Jr.'s character and Tony Stark to begin with. That is that not that he's subverted that, but part of what makes his journey special is he, and it comes right. I'm thinking about the line where in Iron Man 1 where Pepper comes down and sees and says, "I'm quitting because I can't do this with you anymore." And he says, "Look, you stuck by me while I was doing all this horrible stuff. Like, you know, don't stick by me because I have tons of money. Stick by me because you think I'm a good man and I'm doing good things." Um, and he says, but the way he says it is, "I finally know what it is I have to do."
Yeah.
And I think in a lot of ways, it like you said, if you race swap certain characters just for the sake of representation, you could lose some of that. So you definitely have to be careful which ones you do, and not so much, but do it not so much so that you can say, "Well, here's your black character or here's your white character," but to tell a story that accurately portrays not just honors that character, but accurately portrays maybe issues that are going on in our culture at the time, and things like that. Which is why, like, if our culture wasn't having such in-depth and heated conversations about LGBTQ and rights and things like that, there would be no need to make sure that people knew, hey, did you know that Valkyrie is bisexual? Did you know that, like, there would be no need to throw those things in there, because if nobody's talking about sexual orientation and nobody cares what you are and what you aren't, and we just don't discuss sex in general, it's nothing we talk about. I mean, you can go back and look at movies from the 40s and the 50s, and you can find risque movies and things like that. But when they talk about, like, oh, these people slept together, like, you never see it. They never, they're not kissing, they're not
No.
interacting. They wake up in the morning or they talk to each other in the phone, oh, last night was amazing. Like, and people go, what? Wait. And it wasn't because everybody was so prim and proper and we had morals back then. It's because nobody talked about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't talk about it in church. You didn't talk about it with your friends. It was, they didn't talk about divorce. They didn't talk about any of those things. And now that we live in a society that does, it's
Brought up.
what's on people's minds. And so you speak to the culture that you live in. And there's nothing wrong with that. But doing it in a way that is respectful of everybody involved is a balancing act. But because Marvel has so many venues and stories that they can tell, there's plenty of room to do that. So getting back to something like, if you liked it, great. If you didn't, that's okay. Maybe it wasn't for you. Moving on. Right? So I appreciate all the guys that shared tonight.
Yeah.
J Mac and Quaylen and you guys. That was awesome. I had a lot of fun talking.
Yeah.
It's always good to hear from you guys.
Yeah, that's been a really good one tonight. I can't lie. Yeah, thank you all for joining me tonight. J Mac, Quaylen, Roxanne, Rodney, all of you. But yeah, I think this is probably a good point now to wrap this stream up for tonight. So, if you are watching here on stereo, please follow me here at Astounding Cameron, as well as Roxanne at Roxo and Rodney at the after credit scene. Or if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to me. YouTube! Please subscribe to my YouTube channel at Astounding Cameron. And if you head into the description, you'll see Roxanne's YouTube at Mionette and Rodney's at the after credits scene. I will link them both in the description. And while you're down there as well, please check out all my social medias: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Stereo, and TikTok. They'll be in my link tree. And below that as well will be Roxanne's website and Frost's Instagram, as well as Frost's YouTube. And is there anything else you want link in today, Rodney?
No, just my my YouTube channel. I just got over 150 subscribers, which is exciting for me.
Oh, brilliant!
I'm on my 100, man. It's exciting. But yeah, follow me on YouTube. I'm going to be putting out, because there's a gap between She-Hulk and Wakanda Forever, and then a gap after that. I'm putting out some videos of, like, my kids reviewing some things because they wanted to do that. I'm putting out videos of, I'm kind of crossing ministry stuff with my Marvel stuff and putting out some videos about, Bible stories and references that you can make from the MCU with regard to those things. But yeah, find me on YouTube at the after credit scene. And with this video and with others, like I say on my channel, share this sucker all across the multiverse.
And I will actually tag you in the video title as well, because you can do that now, apparently.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's it for this stream, guys. Unless we have a fact from Roxanne?
We do. On like
Yay!
a minorly tangent from T'Challa, the original Captain Marvel actually died of cancer.
Oh.
So the character Marvel, who became a renowned soldier and acclaimed hero through his victories, he got exposed to a nervous gas that caused him to develop cancer on Earth.
Uh-huh.
He ended up spending his last days on Saturn's moon, on one of Saturn's moons, Titan, with one of his close friends and mentors on his deathbed.
I gotta go find. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Hey,
I
know.
also.
I know we're ending, and I want to say bye, but I do need just one quick line. I have watched all of Welcome to Wrexham, and I have watched it.
Yes.
And I feel like I know you both better because I feel like I've seen your town, I've seen your people. It makes me want to come visit really, really bad.
It's great.
Please
up here.
do.
Yeah. And with that, I will say goodbye. But I also want to mention that I will be doing a AstoundCast 64.5 on Wednesday to cover all the usual stuff I'd be talking about. But yeah, as a little video. So that's it for this stream. So I'll see you tomorrow with another YouTube video, and next Sunday with another stream. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys. Bye, Roxanne.
Bye.
See ya.